Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. So we're organizing the webinar with the Paytelligence. We're going to present their credit card and check processing solution. At DNA, we've received a lot of interests from our clients for this kind of solutions, and that's the reason we decided to organize it. Today, we're going to have Carlos Palagat as a presenter. And Carlos, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Truly appreciate this time. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time in joining this demonstration. I'm here with my teammate, Steve Villalobos. He's observing during the call. Thought I would just share that. So I've foregone a presentation and thought we would just jump right into the product. This call is 30 minutes long, so I'll do my best to keep it within 30 minutes. It may go a little bit longer based on any questions that may come up at the end of the demonstration. So let's begin. Paytelligence is a payment processing solution for Sage 300. It is specific for Sage 300. Paytelligence in itself, when it is installed, becomes a part of Sage 300. As you will see, there will be an option in the navigation pane. The integration within Sage 300 and Paytelligence is so intertwined that user security groups, which is a Sage module that manages which security groups can use which Sage 300 product, actually now has a listing for Paytelligence. So if you think about it, no user can process a credit card transaction unless they have access to Sage 300. And furthermore, their security group gives them access not only at the specific credit card processing module, but also the specific credit card processing type. As you see our OE, you can restrict refunds if that is the case where certain users should not be processing credit card refunds. Just wanted to show a little bit of that level of integration. Now, let's begin with the Paytelligence modules. And when Paytelligence is installed, it provides what's called an options, which is really the setup portion. I'm not going to spend too much time here other than Paytelligence can use an unlimited number of merchant accounts within one instance. This is very helpful for Sage 300 customers who may have a warehouse, who are doing wholesale distribution and may be transacting on orders at the wholesale level, but may also have a retail front and may need to have a second merchant account to process credit card transactions at the retail level. Regardless how many merchant accounts your business has, Paytelligence can manage both of them and transact accordingly within the Sage documents for orders and invoices. Second is Paytelligence actually drives PCI compliance to your system. Credit card transactions is a very risky, although very beneficial solution for all Sage 300 customers. However, the risk implies in where if your credit card sensitive data is not safe, you will not be PCI compliant. In Paytelligence, when it processes credit cards, it actually tokenizes the credit card information. It allows you to, if you will, loosely saying, store a card for future use. Now, when I say store, please know, none of the sensitive credit card information ever is stored in the SQL database, anywhere within your servers, your network, or even the Sage workstations. Credit card storing works this way in Paytelligence. You simply would enter the Sage 300 customer number and tab over. If there are any prior cards stored, it will show in the detail area. This tool allows an unlimited number of credit cards to be stored per each Sage customer. Now, the simplicity is, this is part of the management tool that allows you to delete a card. And let's say our instruction is to delete this MasterCard, and it's done very simply by clicking the delete button. We get a security question. Once we respond to the security question, the card is deleted. Now, the sensitive credit card information, I'll go ahead and click add since now we had to add a Visa. Sensitive credit card information is actually stored off-site in what's called a virtual vault at the merchant location. That's the merchant processing location, not anywhere within your business site. And 56781. When the card is stored, the technology that is used is called tokenization. Sensitive credit card information is kept off-site at a virtual vault, and a token is returned back to Paytelligence. That is what Paytelligence uses to transact credit cards. Never uses the sensitive credit card information. When I click Save, it'll validate the card, processing a $1 pre-auth. Pre-auth transaction is never captured. Therefore, that test transaction will never show up in the card holder statement. Now, once it is validated, however, we'll see a CVV match, and since these are dummy cards, I'll probably never get a postal code match, but if this was a live credit card, then yes, we would get what's called an AVS, address verification match. Now, the card, when I click Close, can be used within any of the Paytelligence modules. This is how one would add single cards that maybe may not relate to an order, or manage cards, such as potentially changing the details as expiration date, customer name, and customer address may change throughout the time or the lifespan of this credit card. Now, moving on, this is where credit card processing begins. What we have done in Paytelligence is recognize that order entry modules are highly used for those Sage customers with the order entry suite. And to keep your users within the order entry workflow, we have created Paytelligence Order Entry, Paytelligence Invoice Entry, and Paytelligence Credit Entry. We'll begin today using Paytelligence Order Entry, and once it does open, you'll notice that it looks exactly the same as standard Sage Order Entry. Not only does it look exactly the same, building an order is the same exact steps. This is very, very helpful for a learning curve that does not exist, as your users will be able to use the same steps they're using today to create an order. Let's create our first order for customer 3000. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on how to create an order. Certainly, I'm certain everyone on the call probably knows how to do that as a Sage Order Entry customer. I've created a very simple one-line item order. Now, here are a few options in Paytelligence. We can use a terms code to automatically bring up the Paytelligence payment screen so that the user who's creating the order doesn't really divert far from the standard order entry workflow. Now that I've created my order, I've assigned the Paytelligence terms code. When I click Post, which is the standard workflow in recognizing the data entered, Paytelligence would recognize the order as such and bring up the payment screen automatically for your user. No additional buttons to be clicked. Your user will use and potentially select the default credit card or any other stored credit cards. If there is a need to maybe update the credit card information, they can access that panel right from this payment screen. If the customer wants to throw maybe a curveball and say, hey, I just got a new credit card with frequent flyer miles, what I'd like to use for this order, your user can add a new card on the fly by clicking the New button, and the new credit card detail screen will come up, allowing them to enter the new card to be used. The payment screen automatically configures itself, pulling the order information ready for a pre-auth transaction to hold the funds ready for capture after the order has been picked, packed, and shipped. You can also configure it to do an additional charge to cover any shipping costs that may have not yet been determined. However, once it is ready to be shipped, the shipping can be added, and when it is captured, it will automatically cover the shipping costs in the initial pre-auth. Let's go ahead and process the pre-auth authorization, and when I click Process, we'll get an approval code. When I acknowledge that approval code that the funds are now being held, ready for me to pick, ship, and pack the item, let's go ahead and click Close, and we're brought back to the order. Now, certainly, I'm not going to print anything. If the order representative knows that the warehouse can ship this, we certainly have stock. At this point in time, they can actually enter the shipping information. And let's go ahead and do that. And let's say the shipping for this order is $2. And let's go ahead, ship all, create invoice, and of course, clicking post is the natural workflow for this order. Doing so, however, automatically also brings up the Paytelligence payment screen, again, saving time for your employees. Just standard workflow for the order. Paytelligence payment screens come up automatically, ready to capture the order in the total amount, which now includes shipping. Simply click the process button, and then the amount or the total transaction is complete as that pre-auth was captured. You also have the option from this screen to print a receipt using Paytelligence. Now, Paytelligence uses crystal reports to show and get the receipts either printed or exported out, and certainly some work for your channel partner would need to be done to customize the electronic receipt. However, it does show the last 4 digits of the card used, the approval date, and the amount of the order and the order number. Closing crystal reports brings you back to the screen. As you see now, this order has the shipping number and also the invoice number. This is essentially order entry with the ability to process orders while your users just create the order on the standard Sage 300 OE workflow. The other tool we have is something called Paytelligence Invoice Entry. Now, obviously, invoice entry is no different. Sage Invoice Entry is Paytelligence Invoice Entry. And often, customers who may have said, yeah, let's go ahead and order this amount. However, let's go to invoice number 118. So let's go ahead and travel there. If we go to order number invoice 118, tab over, this order here for customer 310, right, shows that yes, they submitted the order, it's ready to be shipped. They were supposed to send a check. However, they called in and said, you know what, I'd really rather pay by credit card. That's not a problem in Paytelligence. You would just simply pull up the invoice since it's already been invoiced, and to get it paid via credit card, your user would just click the authorized button. Doing so brings up the payment screen, and now you just need to bring in the data or the payment line. Doing so, Paytelligence sets itself up for a sales transaction, meaning no need for a pre-auth and capture. One transaction will collect the funds and send it to the business checking account associated with the merchant account. Doing so also, none of the amounts the user ever has to change. It is read directly from the invoice, making things a little less hairy, if you will, for little amount of errors. When the user is ready to process, they simply click process, and the transaction is approved. You've seen the printing of the receipt. Certainly not going to do that again, but you do have that opportunity here anytime the credit card transaction is fully completed. Let's go ahead and click close. The order is now effectively paid for. And let's do this. If I just come out of the order and come back into the order, you'll see there's also a transaction history button that your representative can click to see who and maybe when the order may have been processed for a credit card transaction. Transaction history is very, very helpful. It allows other reps to understand if this order had been paid for via credit card. Let's go ahead and close invoice entry. Now, refunds. Refunds and credit cards are a little bit tedious if you don't have an integrated solution. However, when you use Paytelligence credit entry, processing a refund for an order that's coming back is no different than creating a credit note. You simply then would choose the customer. So let's go ahead and choose the customer needing to return an order. It's customer 3075. And I'll click tab over. The invoice they're looking to refund is invoice 117. So here it is, invoice 117. Let's go ahead and select it. The usage of Sage 300 credit entry and Paytelligence credit entry is really no different. If this was a partial refund with maybe only a portion of the ordered items coming back, then they would adjust it in the quantity. If this was a full refund, then you would leave the quantity alone. Now, obviously, once we have the order, we need the credit note number. So the workflow for your user is no different than creating a standard credit note. However, in Paytelligence credit entry, if this order was in fact paid for by a credit card, clicking post will automatically bring up the refund screen. The refund screen will be locked down to the card that was used in the original debit transaction. The amount of the refund certainly will be calculated based on the number of items coming back or any items that might have been changed in any one of the order lines. We are ready to process the refund, and it can't get any easier for your user. If your user wants to make sure that in fact this card was charged, we give you the transaction history button in the refund screen, and certainly enough, this was ordered. It was a pre-auth and a capture in the amount of $124.38, which is exactly the amount we will refund back to this card. Let's go ahead and click close on transaction history, and let's process this refund. The refund is now processed. This is how easy it is to refund an order that's coming back that was paid for by a credit card. You can print the receipt. I'll show you what a refund credit entry receipt looks like. And once Crystal Reports comes up, again, shows the last 4 digits, the approval code for the refund, the amount of the refund, the credit note number, and the total amount received back to the card. Let's go ahead and close Crystal Reports, and let's not print this order. We just processed our refund and basically have shown all the order entry tools specific to processing credit cards, allowing your users to transact on a credit card while creating the order, or pulling up an invoice to transact on an invoice, or making it much easier to process a credit card refund for any orders that are coming back. The next tool I'm going to show you is called Transaction Processor. This is one of our favorite accounting tools, as it allows people in accounting, maybe not knowing order entry well or invoice entry, the ability to pull up any Sage 300 document. So let's go ahead and open up Transaction Processor. Our customer we will use today for this demonstration is customer 3015. Customer 03015, you can access orders under this customer, and you can process different types of credit card transaction types, as you can see. You can also access invoices, if there are any, and there is one here. If I wanted to maybe process a sale against this invoice, we can get that done as well. Now, more importantly, however, is AR invoice. This tool becomes a favorite tool when customers fall behind on paying their invoices. This is a perfect tool for collections. As you can see, this customer has several outstanding invoices too. This tool will actually look at any unpaid invoices and present it in this detail area. You have the ability to use whatever credit card, there's 2 of them, that the customer so desires to process a transaction, add a new card, or change credit card details need be. You can choose a specific invoice to be fully paid. As you notice, this one here, the original amount of the invoice was $2,429. However, there seems to be a pending balance of $429.13. You can actually select all invoices to be paid by simply clicking Select All. And it will even summarize the total amount of the potential credit card transaction. So while you have your customer on the phone, you can then begin to come to an agreement on which invoices will be paid. In this scenario, the customer agrees to pay all invoices except this 730 invoice, telling me that they can pay only $500 of it, but would be able to pay the additional $230.69 next month. Well, as in all collection calls, I'll take what the customers can give, and certainly don't want to throw anybody out of business. So here's what we'll do. We'll make this a yes, and let's go ahead and collect the $500 that the customer agreed upon. When we click out of that row, you'll notice that our total changes so that we can confirm with the customer that we will process a total amount of $2,996.44 against card ending 6781. Now, one of the things this tool does is it does combine all it does combine all invoices into one credit card transaction rather than processing them individually. This will save fees for your organization when it comes to credit card merchant fees. So let's go ahead and get this transaction processed. And as you can see here, we got the approval. And to show what the receipt looks like when you're processing multiple invoices under one credit card transaction, I went ahead and printed the receipt. So this receipt again shows the approval code, last 4 digits, all the invoices that were paid, including our short pay of $500. Once I close Crystal Reports, brings me back to the tool, and notice any invoice that's been fully paid will fully disappear from this tool, preventing duplicate payments of the same invoice. However, any invoice that remains an open balance will be shown for the next collections call for this customer. This is Transaction Processor. The next tool really are mass and batch processing tools. Paytelligence is often connected to web stores. However, the first tool I'm going to show you is something called mass authorization. Mass authorization is a tool that allows you to pull in open orders needing an authorization or a pre-auth transaction. Now, I've gone ahead and created data, and really all I did was create orders needing a pre-auth. This is a popular tool for our very large order centers where the order representatives are not necessarily dealing with the cards, they're just creating the order and tagging a terms code for customers who want to pay by credit card. Doing so, I've done this. Now, I know the expected ship date, I believe, we'll do it from the 28th to the 4th, and I believe the order date certainly happened way before today. Now, when I click the query, it'll pull up all the orders with the mass terms code, and it'll going to be ready to process a pre-auth, which is what the order amounts are, so that the warehouse can begin picking and packing and shipping this item, because this can be all processed in one or few clicks. Let's go ahead. All of them are selected, or need be, if there was ever a change, I can not process this order for whatever reason, but for my demonstration, I'll process all. Clicking process will provide a little measurement bar so you know. This could be several hundred, if not thousands of rows. Once it is done, we are given the little approval code. Obviously, if any one of these orders declines, the order will just remain open. Once we click close, we have the proof that it's all been pre-auth. Now, the warehouse can go ahead and pick pack these items, and all these orders have been somewhat processed with a pre-auth transaction. When the items are already in the truck, then the partner mass processing tool is mass settlement. Mass settlement can also be used to, if your customer or if you have a web store that's connected to Sage, we can easily connect that to Paytelligence. And you can have your captures from your web store orders done in Paytelligence. I know the pre-auth date was sometime on the 27th, and we're going to include just invoiced orders for now. When you run the query, here we are. These are, we have one order that needs to be captured, and we have some web orders that also need to be captured. Now, if we wanted to, we can also include uninvoiced orders, and here are a few. And these uninvoiced orders are really the orders that we did in our mass auth. Right? The order placers, the order representatives have not yet shipped it, but if we can get it shipped today, let's go ahead and include it in our mass capture. This will save your organization hours of time versus processing each one of these individually. Let's go ahead and select all, and certainly you can choose specific rows not to process depending on your needed requirements. Let's go ahead and click process to get this done. There will be a measurement bar that's shown. Your users can certainly also use other portions of Sage while they're waiting for these orders to process. It takes roughly 3 to 4 seconds per order. When it is done, they will disappear from the site. These orders have now been captured. That's all revenue coming to your business account. The other mass processing tool is something called process prepayment. This is more a batch processing tool that allows you to bring in an unlimited number of invoices based on predefined criteria, such as credit card orders. When I run the query, it'll look for any order document, an ORD document, and present it as such. So let me make this bigger so we can see what we're looking at. Now, this here is the header showing the customers with the order. And if I see here this customer has 2 orders, I can choose a different credit card to be paid if there was more than one credit card. However, if I keep it on the same credit card, what Paytelligence will do is combine these amounts two separate invoices into one credit card transaction. Again, saving your organization credit card processing fees. Very, very easy to process. You can save this and process at a later date. You can print it with Crystal Reports and export it into Excel. Or if you are ready to process all these invoices, could be thousands of them, simply click the process button, agree to the security question, and the process begins. Again, 3 to 4 seconds per transaction, and when it is done, you get your approval codes. If any of these transactions decline, the invoices would just remain open and not be paid. The last and final processing tool we have is something called Miscellaneous Processor. I know I'm very close to the end of the time. I'm almost done as well. Miscellaneous Processor is one of our strongest credit card processing tools. We create it to match the strength of processing credit card transactions directly in a virtual terminal. One of the things this can do, and a lot of our customers really, really require, is the ability to process a credit card transaction without a Sage 300 document, somewhat a project, if you will, a deposit for a project. So let's go ahead and just say this is a deposit, if I can spell this correctly. There we go. And literally any card, you can add a new card, change details to the card. If there were more than one card stored, yeah, that full capability, you would simply, oops, I chose AR credit, I should have chose AR invoice, just enter the amount of the deposit, let's say $500. When we process this transaction, and we will right now, once we get the approval code, we've just hit this card $500. The amount is on its way to your business checking account. However, what Paytelligence will do in this scenario with no Sage document to a credit card transaction, it will create a PP, a prepayment document, and place it under this customer's account. And later on, when the invoice is created or the orders are created, you simply would just align that prepayment using Sage. This is how one would essentially obtain a deposit without an actual Sage 300 document. However, certainly this tool will allow to process credit notes, invoices, orders, and AR credits as well. Very, very strong tool. We often limit use to this to mostly just the directors or managers of the accounting team. Now, certainly we process several credit card transactions in this demonstration, and certainly a lot of our existing customers, and you yourself probably process several credit card transactions in a day. And without an integrated product, someone has to create receipt entries for all the approved credit card transactions. And if you processed any refunds, you'd have to create a refund entry. We all know how time-consuming and tedious that may be, and certainly prone to errors. What Paytelligence provides is what's called the Paytelligence Day End. Paytelligence Day End incorporates inventory control day end, preventing you to having to run two separate ones. You can run both together. I'll go ahead and click process. Inventory control of day end runs first. However, the portion of Paytelligence Day End, this is what actually creates all the receipts for you. The receipts for approved credit card transactions, and also the receipts for any refunds that you've processed, it'll create. Once that is done, you simply would go into Paytelligence, your accounts receivables, AR transactions, and open up the receipt batch list. You see the receipt batch list has our 17 transactions that we processed in it. That will save you time no longer having to create receipts for credit card transactions. Let's go ahead and open this so you can see how the receipt is created. And you'll see the receipts. These are individual receipts. Related to an order. This was probably part of our mass authorization and mass capture, if you will. It creates a prepayment, aligning it to the order. It also uses the last 4 digits of the credit card, puts it in the reference. The payment code is the card type, and the receipt number is actually the transaction receipt in the gateway. So if you ever need to contact your gateway to review a receipt, you simply would share this, and they would be able to find it within their own systems. Let's go ahead and peruse more of this batch. I'm looking for the transaction processor receipt, where we processed multiple invoices in one credit card transaction. And 15, this is 17, well, where did it go? Oh, it may have then just create it as into one. When you're done, simply you just post all the receipts and you're done there. So essentially, Paytelligence not only will save you money in the ability to process and combine multiple invoices into one credit card transaction, but it's accessory tools. It's tools to be able to run day end for you, provide transaction history, will save your users time in managing your credit card orders. Now, we do have the ability also for standard reports. We have a transaction report that comes with the product. It allows you to create a report of all the transactions that have been processed, whether it be in a date range, a month range, or in a longer range. But let's go ahead and print it so you can see it. This all could be certainly massaged and somewhat edited via your channel partner. However, the transaction report does provide the customer name, transaction total, the document amount versus the transaction amount, so you could see if there's any short pays. That is the transaction report. We also have a credit card report. Credit card report shows you all your stored credit cards that you have, but more importantly, it will also show you and provide you a report of credit cards that may be expiring over a period of time that you get to declare. So let's see what cards may be expiring from December to February 2024. Once you click print, it will look at the expiration date of all your stored cards and allow you to report on it. This report then should be shared with your customer account managers so that they can update your customers' credit card information accordingly in Paytelligence. We also have separate reports for expiring authorizations if you do use the pre-auth and capture. Paytelligence batch status report really is a snapshot of the batches within the AR receipt batch list that Paytelligence has created. An uncaptured invoice report, again, that's if you're using the pre-auth and capture. Document status is an overall document status to be able to view those orders that have been pre-auth, not pre-auth, captured, not captured, fully captured and pre-auth. And then lastly, a transaction inquiry, which really is a tool that allows you to report on any and all credit card transactions within your system. You have the ability for a date range. If you have more than one merchant account, obviously customer range or single customer, card number, location. You can do it via OE order, OE invoice number, OE credit number, AR invoice, AR credit. If you were just to simply click search, just with leaving the date, gives you all the transactions we processed in that date. And every header on this row is very helpful as it provides the document number, the doc type, the type of transaction that was processed, whether it was accepted, the approval code, card type, last 4 digits. This is pretty much all you'll ever need to report on any credit card transaction that was processed in your system. I apologize for going a little bit over. However, let's open up to see if we have any questions.
Thank you very much, Carlos. That was a very, very good presentation. A lot of details, a lot of information. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think we have a question. What about tap transactions? Is there a terminal also available for those circumstances?
For captures, yes, you could use transaction processor. I'm sorry, thought that was a tool. You can actually use transaction processor. So, for instance, let's say if a customer, I believe 3015, the customer may be, oh no, let's use Ronald Black. Ronald Black with a lot of orders. All right. So if a customer has multiple order documents, right, and they need to be authorized or they need to be captured, this could be done here. Now, certainly, maybe if I choose, there we go, we've got 3 invoices that you could process as a capture. So you do have the ability using this tool to pick up any order or invoice document to be able to process the needed credit card transaction or ACH transaction as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Carlos. Is there any detail you can provide regarding the implementation process and the time frame to install the solution?
Oh, yes, of course. We've made implementation very easy. The install is no different than running really an install routine It uses the Windows regular installer, if you will. It takes maybe no more than 10 minutes to get done. And then the configuring of the merchant accounts, we really time that. As long as your merchant accounts are created, then we can configure that. The full implementation to have a system up and running, ready to process credit card transaction, takes no more than 1 hour. We also provide individual training. Now, certainly the training for order entry customers is not how to use order entry, invoice entry, or credit entry. It reviews the payment screens, the authorized screens, and then the Paytelligence modules, the specific modules, such as transaction processor, miscellaneous processor, and any of the batch or mass processing tools. We work with you to define your credit card workflow, and we'll train your users only on those specific modules or workflows that are defined as part of the training. We find it unnecessary to train users for all the modules, as that simply will confuse them. Training, no more than an hour. You can be up and running in 2 days, processing credit card transactions in the 3rd day.
Wonderful. I don't know if we have other questions. I don't see any other question.
I'm going to pipe in here. We do have one more question. The question is, does it also have a feature where you could send a link to a customer and they could pay the amount themselves, entering their credit card information themselves?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Paytelligence does not. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of existing services out there that already do that. And we are compatible to a few of them. So rather than working with Paytelligence and creating that solution, we just bring in one of our sister organizations that have that capability that easily integrates into Paytelligence.
That's perfect. Okay. Thank you, Carlos.
You're very welcome.
Excellent. So I think we don't have any more questions. Yes, Carlos, did you want to add something else?
If anything, I just want to say thank you for this time, and thank you everyone who's attended and heard this presentation. And certainly, if you would like your own demonstration specific to your organization, please contact your DNA consultant, your channel partner, and we'll get that scheduled for you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Carlos. And if anyone wants any customized demo, I mean, we're here to schedule it for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.